So anyway, it's about World War II, and I have 4 historians who are. One of them is with the evacuated children in the north of England. One of them is doing the Blitz. One of them is doing the civilian evacuation from Dunkirk of soldiers, but by civilians. And one of them is doing the intelligence war involved in the lead up to D-Day, where they fooled Hitler into thinking we were attacking at Calais instead of at Normandy. And their lives are hopelessly intertwined, but then they all get in trouble. You know my books. They all get in terrible trouble and can't get out and are stuck in World War II, for God's sake. So not a safe place to be.
Better than the plague.
So not necessarily better than the plague. A slightly better survival chance because they have the advantage of some knowledge that the locals don't have. But then again, historical events are notoriously inaccurate, and just because you think you knew where all the bombs fell doesn't mean you do. So that will figure heavily in the book. But it's been great working with the book, and I love it. And it's not that I'm stuck or that I have writer's block or anything, but okay, you know that scene in the movie The Blob where the doors of the movie theater open and the blob sort of oozes out across the entire city with people caught on the inside. Okay, that's me in my book right now. I'm sort of caught on the inside. It oozes over the entire city. I did the first 1,000 pages. Which will be cut, but it definitely looks like 2 volumes and possibly 3. And this is not like the further adventures of. It's just a very long, complicated book. So my editor is really mad at me, and yes, my agent is, and I'm doing the best I can. But I have a lot to tell. I have a lot of stuff to tell you about the war and about my characters and about what it was like to be back there in a very difficult and unusual time, because there are some very funny things about World War II. I know you don't think of wars as hilarious, but and I'm sure they're less hilarious to be living through them than reading about them. But you know, the Brits were absolutely wonderful. And don't believe, one of the books I have is called The Myth of the Blitz, which attempts to debunk the idea that the Brits were so plucky and funny and great under pressure. That book is a total lie. They were great and plucky and funny under pressure. And probably one of my favorite stories is, which some of you may have heard, is the old woman that they dragged out of the rubble, and they weren't sure where who else had been in the basement, when the bomb hit. So they said to her, "Madam, is your husband under there?" And she said, "Hell no, the bloody coward's at the front." But they truly were wonderful, and they had really, it was England's finest hour, and one can only hope that America could pull herself together and have a fine hour like that, as opposed to behaving like we're behaving right now. And I guess my other favorite story is one night Fleet Street was bombed, which was where all the newspapers were, and all the newspaper offices and the printing presses were destroyed, and only one newspaper managed to be able to get up and running with a one sheet paper the next morning, and the headline was, "Bomb injured in fall on Fleet Street." They really were cool people, and I'm determined to write about them, and I'm determined to wrestle this novel to the ground and win. But it's just taking me quite a while. So that's the status report, and I'm going to read to you this morning from not from the first chapter, which I think a lot of you've heard. I'm hoping that this is a chapter that you haven't heard. If it is, feel free to get up and walk out, and other people can then have your seat. Yes?
Just a quick question. Do you have a working title?
Yes, I have the title. It's called All Clear, which is based on the siren that goes at the end of the raids. Oh, and a piece of interesting trivia, which is also in the book. Maybe if all these interesting things weren't in the book, it would be a short book.
Hey, we'll buy the 3 volumes. We don't care.
Is that when they picked the siren, which you most recently heard in Lebanon, I kept hearing it on the news. they purposely picked what is called the Devil's Tritone, which has been known since the Middle Ages. It's a uniquely dissonant and unpleasant sound to the human ear, and one that the human ear cannot easily disregard, because their main worry was that after 2 weeks you would be so used to it you wouldn't even hear it, you wouldn't respond. So it is one of the most distressing sounds, that up and down warble of the air raid siren, and I noticed that Lebanon was using exactly the same notes, which is the Devil's Tritone. I thought that was very important. So okay, alrighty. I am just I won't tell you anything, but I think everything is self-explanatory, because I don't like to read very far in, because at this rate I could have read you the entire novel. but I am working, and if I stop and make sudden cuts, it's because my editor is helping me cut right now. So.
Consider it a serial.
That's right. Well, the sad thing is, I do think the good news is, and if you see my editor, Ann Grohl, stop her in the hall and say, we think it's a wonderful idea to wait and publish both volumes, one shortly after the other, rather than publishing one now. Because I want to be able to mess with the entire book right up to the last sentence. But it isn't a freestanding novel. It's kind of like the Pirates movie, you know, kind of stop in the middle, which makes me really sincere about living till next summer.